classroom title, panel title, we were starting to move into the topic. Last panel is vulnerability and healing in the classroom. I'm very, I'm gonna say I'm very proud. I'm very excited, but I'm very proud to be introducing the moderator, Kentel Weaver. Who was locked up at 16, who had a life sentence without parole at that age, who has served many years, who is a bachelor's degree student at Tufts.
Right. Yeah.
Who is a full-time restorative justice circle keeper facilitator with the Transformational Prison Project.
Yeah.
Who is a rapper.
That's right.
Greatest rapper that ever lived.
And who is somebody who makes us all feel a sense of peace. So Kentel, thank you, and he will kick off the panel.
Yo. How y'all doing? Y'all, I'm glad y'all came out to support us tonight. So grab a round of applause for y'all. And so part of the whole TUPIT and MyTERN experience is restorative justice, and so a lot of the teaching is based in restorative justice practice. So it's not like his name's Paulo Freire. I always get his last name wrong, where it's like that banking system type of teaching where you're standing up in front of the classroom and you're just pouring into the student. A lot of the classes is restorative justice based, so we sit in a circle, and like everybody mentioned a little bit earlier, we sit in a circle, we do the grounding. Some people say, I hate that grounding. It's silence, it just makes people feel awkward, and that's normal. That's a valid feeling. They're not used to the experience. And so we do the grounding, and then we do the check-in with every individual that's in the class to fit, so that whatever baggage or emotional trauma they may be bringing into the space, we ask that they release that, and so they can get the full extent of what this experience is, the educational experience and the learning experience from each other. And so we do that, and then do that class, and then at the end of the class we do a checkout just to make sure everybody's straight before they leave. And so I know a lot of people that are coming into the program, they hear about it, they see a little bit about the program normally. It may be through word of mouth, it may be on Instagram, it may be wherever. And so I think a lot of people are starting to realize and see like the actual impact of what this program is. And I know for our panelists who are all, except Nate, new to the program, it's different for all of them. So I'm gonna let them introduce themselves first, and then we'll get into it.
Okay, did they turn this off? No, all right. Hi, my name is Nathan Mitch. I was incarcerated for 20 years. I got out in June of 2023, and I'm going to graduate this year with my bachelor's degree after finishing.
Yeah.
After finishing the MyTERN program, which I'm currently doing, and yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Rosia Lopez, aka Rose, aka the ray of sunshine of Coral 5. So I was actually in South Bay for a few months and I came home, so my case is still currently open, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that after graduation, I don't have to retire, but we will see.
Hi, my name is Todd Conley. I am currently a MyTERN student. I spent 10 years in prison. I came home November 1st of 2023, and I was actually found out about MyTERN last year at the symposium, so I'm happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Jason Stiles, and I'm a MyTERN student. And before I start, I just want to say I want to give a shout out and thank you to all the MedBit students and all the Tufts students, and the MyTERN students. They know why I'm thanking them, because I was struggling and they were there. The community really showed up for me. So I just want to thank every one of you, you know. I recently did just 25 years in prison, and I'm here to get my civic studies, you know, certificate, and hopefully we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
All right, so seeing that you're a person, I would say, is at first you learned about the program and then you recognized that you wanted to get involved with it, and then so being that person that was on the outside looking in, and then coming into the community where it was already established, everyone knew each other. How did it feel for you to be like a new person coming into the community? Like how was that transition for you, and how were you received?
At first, I felt, you know, like I didn't match up. Like, you know, the tough students were a lot smarter than me. My background is, I got a 6th grade education. You know, I got my GED, but, you know, I just kind of felt like there was a disconnect, like I didn't belong. You know, and that's been, you know, the theme of my life, is not having a place. But as time went on, you know, and I was able to be, you know, there was a tough student that, you know, would ask me every day at class how I was doing. He would pull me aside, sit me down, and ask me how I was doing. And he wouldn't let me just generalize, like I'm doing fine, or I'm, you know, this, that. He would actually engage me and get me to open up and be vulnerable, you know. And it's like, when I was able to do that, I felt a connection. You know, when I started connecting with others, you know, it just branched off from that. And eventually, it took maybe part of the semester to where I felt connected to every one of the students involved, you know, and my professor and David, you know, I just felt like felt like I belonged. And that just recently just showed up. It just my belonging, you know, really showed up. You know, the community really gave me a lot of, you know, they reached out to me when I was struggling. And that gave me a sense of, you know, I belong in the community, because, you know, they're not concerned about somebody that's not a member of their community.
Yeah, for me it was a little different, because you know, a lot of these guys started on the inside, and I didn't start on the inside. You know, I found out about it, like I said, at the symposium last year, and you know, I came in class to, you know, a few faces I knew from behind the wall, and you know, shout out to Needham, Sean Ellis, my man. You know, I grew up in Needham, and you know, a couple of family members there, thank you. But you know, just to let you know that even though he was bused to Needham, it can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. We all have the same walks of life, even though, you know, we're all in this together. And you know, he's someone that I really got to know. I was in Norfolk with him, and you know, Tyree and different guys like that. But you know, I felt, you know, I haven't been in school in a long time, and you know, I just knew that I had to apply myself. But you know, what actually helped me was the comfortability, and to let my guard down around these people, because I was accepted into, you know, guys that have been in it for a long time. They accepted me in as one of them. I was never different. I never felt different. I always felt like I was a part of it. And that's what was huge for me, because, you know, I struggle with some issues, some inside issues, and I struggle with some, you know, worrying about what people think of me issues type of thing. And you know, not 1 second did anyone in this class ever judge me or ever care about me. They all tried to pull me up and show me the way. If they felt that I was struggling, they would pull me up. And I took that as you know, that these people cared about me. So I never felt that I was different from any of these guys, whether they started before me or after me. So it was great.
For me, so I was introduced to the MyTERN program through my local youth worker. That's how I met Bobby. Bob the Builder is what I call him. So that was my first impression of the program, and I actually came here as well to the symposium last year. And it was really intense, you know, because I'm like, I don't think this is for me, because there's too much testosterone in this program. You know, like, it's too much male in here. There's some females in here, you know, so like, I remember I told my youth worker, like, I don't know if this is for me, you know, but she was like, no, like, they do have females in there, like, I promise you won't be the only one. And then eventually I got into the digital literacy class with Bobby, Kentel, and Kevin over there. Shout out to him. Yeah, so, and I feel like that classroom it was like a warm up to the actual program because prior to here, like I was not a hugger. Hugging was not a thing for me, you know. It was like nothing. Like I was very shy. I was very isolated from everyone else from the way that I had grown up. So I remember Kentel like, I know why you're not a hugger. Trauma. And it was like the most hilarious thing. So we all started laughing, and eventually I became like a hugger. And like it was such a thing of like every day, like bye, hug, hi, hug. And it was like here in the program, my first day here, I was like, okay, there are females here first of all, and then it was like everybody hugged each other, like every single person. Like I remember Lou hugging Nate, and it was so emotional because Lou had just came home, and it was such a thing. And I was like, well, damn. Like, you know, like I grew up in a sense of like men don't hug, you know, like, and it was just like a phenomenal all moment of just like, well, okay, now I really gotta be a hugger, you know. So, and it was just like a phenomenal moment to really see that the first day of class of just getting to meet everybody, and throughout the program it was always at checking in and like hugging each other. It was like, hey, like how you doing? How's life? How's this? And I'm like, whoa, buddy, hold on, you know. But for me, it was a thing for me because growing up, I was always isolated. I was always the solution for my family. I was never the one to ask for help or do stuff like that. So being asked, oh, how about you, was more of like, well, shit, what about me? You know, it was that hardcore, heartfelt of like, they really do care. There's people out there where they will ask you how you are, like genuinely, you know. So it was just good.
Thank you. We're gonna answer something different.
Okay. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let me moderate. No. No, I love Nate. Nate was in cohort 1 with me. So, and it's crazy because a lot of the times we're not talking about like how we came into the classroom, and we came into that classroom when it first started, mad divisive. It's like, oh nah, he's Puerto Rican, don't Puerto Ricans, he's white, I don't really rock with the white dudes, he's blood, he's Crips, everybody has these labels that keep us like separated from each other and separate from learning about each other. And yeah, so, and that's where I feel like a lot of the, it was just difficult for us to get to know each other, but once we did get to know each other, it was just a transformative moment. So what I want to ask Nate is mainly just like, a lot of the times we talk about like what our educational experiences were before we stepped into the classroom, and a lot of it is trauma-based. We didn't have a lot of good experiences with schooling when we were younger, so it's like as soon as they brought college to prison, we like, man, no, I'm good. Oh yeah, we just good with that whole thing. So like, what was your how was this experience different than your learning experience from before?
Okay, well that's a complicated question because I grew up in North Carolina in a military family. I always knew I was gay. That was not the place to be a young gay kid trying to go to school. It just wasn't. I was 100% like in a shell. Like I was terrified of talking to anybody. I got beat up. I mean, I got teased. I got tortured pretty much. And because of a lot of that, because a lot of things that were going on at home, I was just a terrible student all the way around. So school was hard for me. And when I dropped out in my senior year, I went out and got my GED and never ever thought about going back to school again. I was never gonna do that. Fast forward, been incarcerated for 15 years. I see a flyer on the wall, I answer it, I go and sign up for this program, and here I am in prison where I've been trying to be invisible for the last 15 years, because again, I'm in an inherently vulnerable position, and I just don't want that kind of attention. I walk into this classroom, and I wrote in my notebook on the first day, speak up, you know, be yourself, get as much as you can out of this, you're never gonna get an opportunity like this again. So, it was hard in the beginning. You probably remember how hard it was for me to speak out loud in class. I was shaking, sweating, nearly on the verge of tears. It was hard. But something about the space that you, Hillary Binder, created in that room, something about what you did with us made it possible for me to tell my truth, to say who I was and to live in that. And thank God, the men in that classroom were there to hold me up, and I didn't get shunned or shoved away. I was embraced, and I was held up, and I was listened to, and it started conversations that we badly needed to have. And it was a really big deal for us because there were so many different things going on in that classroom. There were so many things that we walked in there believing that little by little fell away as we became a community. And if it hadn't been for the fact that these men, David, Kentel, John, all of these men that were in these classrooms with me who never ever made me feel like I was anything but part of the community, I don't think it would have been the same for me.
So part of MyTERN is like a separate component of it is like a digital literacy, financial literacy. We get different people from different organizations that come in and they teach us a little bit about debt, saving money, and finances and things we may have not been as knowledgeable about before we came in. And then another part of it is we do a 7-week restorative justice series, and oh yeah, it's sponsored by our fellow. TPP. Yeah, TPP. It's led by TPP, who is very experienced at the restorative justice practice. So Bobby and Noble came in every week alongside with me. Yeah, alongside with me, and this was the first time that I actually got to do it because I didn't get to do it last year with my own cohort. But it was cool to be a part of that experience. But I've done restorative justice while I was on the inside, so I already knew what it required and what it was going to do to people, like upon entry in of the circle. And so, I guess what I wanted to ask is, what do you feel like you learned about yourself in the whole restorative justice process after those 7 weeks?
What did I learn about myself? I guess, how much trauma I actually brought to the table. Life kind of beat me down really hard, but, every time we were in the circle, it was like the tears were just ready to bubble up, I hated the circle. I hated the readings, because they were emotional. There was stuff that I had buried for so many years. And, but the important thing was it came at the perfect time. Because being in a community that was allowed to be vulnerable, and I could trust the people, my classmates, I was sharing things that I probably had never shared with anybody before, and vice versa with other classmates. That things came up that, we trusted each other to be really, really raw, and it, like I said, it came at the perfect time, because being in any other space, I wouldn't have been able to, open up those wounds that were there that I, just didn't deal with over the, my whole lifetime. So I guess I kind of lost the track of the question, but the circle is something that I just kind of hope. I hated it at the end. I didn't want it to end because those things started coming up. I started becoming free. I started feeling, who I actually was. It's like all that garbage you take it, you get it out of you. You get to be. You understand, all right, well, there's a person there. There's a person of worth. All that, crap that life threw at you and you buried and, you saw yourself as that garbage. When it starts coming out, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, there's something shining here, And then you start pulling more and more and more, and it's like you start understanding, but the key component of it is being in an environment that, Hillary created that, allows us to be vulnerable, to let those, deal with those wounds, let it feel those feelings. Because, it made everything possible. It made my learning, it facilitated my learning. Because I brought to the table trauma. We had to deal with the trauma first before I was able to sit down and, get into classwork, So, like I said, I wish that the class never ended, the circle. And I think there should be more people should get involved with it, because it actually transformed me, I'm still not where I need to be, but, you know, I'm making progress.
Yeah, so I think for myself was, I couldn't stand the circle, to be honest with you. I really couldn't stand it, and I think the main reason why I couldn't stand the circle was because I was so vulnerable. And it allowed me, especially the readings, I just told Bobby, like, I hate this book. Like, this book is allowing me to see some things from my childhood and the trauma that I have from my childhood that I never wanted to look at my whole life, and I never did. And it allowed me to look at, some stuff and see some stuff in it. I can't tell you how many times in that circle that I heard someone say, I've never told anyone this before, but I'm gonna tell you guys. And that allowed me to be like, wow, this person's trusting me enough to tell me from where I came from, to tell me something they never told anyone. Like, no, that just, that never happened. And, so it allowed me to look at people in a different way, and to know that, I could trust people that I didn't know, and that they also trusted me. And it also let some walls down where I could start to work on some stuff that I needed to be worked on.
I love you, but this question, I don't know. I feel like for me personally, I learned that I don't like being alone. I've been alone like for basically all of my life, I'm not old, but I'm getting there. Like I've been through so much by myself, and like I've said before, like I've always been disillusioned when it comes to issues in my family, like I've never been one to reach out or to be open or be sentimental, so it's kind of like, no, I'm good on my own, like I've always had that mindset of you're good on your own, don't trust no one, you made it this far, so I feel like being in that circle just made me really think like, well, damn, like if I could be as good of a person on my own, like being able to see how real I can be on my own, why can't I share that with others, like I don't want to be alone. I want to be in a community surrounded by people who understand what I'm going through, especially like the females in the program. Like I truly connect with them, and I appreciate them so much, and I don't say that very often, but I really do.
We appreciate you too.
Thank you. So I feel like just acknowledging that, especially being able to bring sorry, I lost my thought. I was able to bring like the work that we did inside of the class for RJ. I was able to bring that to my therapy, like I was able to, there was a lot of things that, like Todd said, there was something that I had never told anyone before, and I was able to bring that out into the circle, in a room full of people, so I was able to finally, face out front in therapy and like really be like, all right, you know what, like if I could do that there, why can't I do it outside, so just being able to acknowledge that and just knowing that being alone is not the best thing, especially from like just coming from the streets and like being always told like don't trust no one, like do what you gotta do to survive, so being in that circle was just phenomenal.
But since we're talking about vulnerability, at what point in this whole process of TUPIT, of MyTERN, or just being a part of this community, did you learn that being vulnerable was not a weakness?
That's something I think I've always kind of known. You were in the classroom with me, there was no part of myself I wasn't going to share. Once I knew that I was going to be safe in that space, I knew that I was going to be okay. I don't see that as vulnerability. I don't see that kind of sharing as vulnerability, because when you are putting those things outside of yourself, you're taking away their power to harm you, and that is the opposite of vulnerability. So I feel empowered in those moments when I'm talking about childhood sexual abuse, when I'm talking about my addiction, when I'm talking about the things I did as an addict, when I talk about the crime I committed, when I talk about all the things that, in order for them to be vulnerabilities, I would still have to be holding on to the shame. And because I better understand my path, because I understand that my life has been a series of cause and effect, there were things that happened to me, there were things that I did, there were ways that I reacted. To be able to look at that now, and let go of shame means that I can speak about those things and not be vulnerable. Does that make sense to you? There is no vulnerability left in me because there's no shame left. I still have remorse for the things that I've done. I still have remorse for the people that I've hurt, but the shame is not a part of my life anymore. There's no room for it. What I can do now is take those experiences, the trauma, the healing, the addiction, the recovery, all of those things, I can take them now and I can share those stories so that other people know they're not alone. I can offer my support, I can offer a path, and that's the way I see those things today. I don't feel like I'm being vulnerable. I don't ever feel vulnerable anymore. I don't feel like there's any part of myself that I'm unwilling to share because there's no part of my life that I'm ashamed of today.
You want to answer? At what point did you start to realize that vulnerability is not a weakness?
That's a tough one. That's loaded. I feel like just being able to see how others were just being able to be vulnerable, especially in the RJ circle, like hearing stories and hearing what people have been through, and just having the ability to just do that, you know, like to sit there and just be vulnerable and just be sentimental in a space, especially like in a mental state, like when you share, for me personally, it's like mentally for me when I share, it's kind of like, well, what are you doing, you know? So it's kind of that strength of like, well, no, like it's okay, you know, like you gotta be able to just acknowledge the fact that, especially in the RJ circle, like it's okay to talk about what you are going through, you know, life is not always gonna be a movie, you know? You know, there's a lot of stuff where like you gotta be able to just acknowledge how you feel and really be able to share that with somebody, because staying in that mental state of not sharing and just be like, nah, I got this, like it's not healthy. So I feel like for me, that point of mental state of like it's okay, I feel like for me it's kind of like it's like you don't really, it's not vulnerability, it's just you being strong, you healing in that very moment, you know, like because you're able to talk about it. So
I guess, you know, kind of to build on what Nate said,
All the way up.
what Nate said about, you know, not being, you know, it's empowerment. I kind of feel like, you know, the more I'm vulnerable, the more I'm just taking back my narrative. Because, you know, my story, you know, the real me is coming, you know, I'm getting to know the real me. And by me getting to know the real me, I can show others the real me. You know, and that's a personal self-worth, you know, the value, and, you know, to be accepted, you know, as a member of a community, there's a responsibility. You know, so it's taking back the narrative. It's because I don't see it as being vulnerable either, because every time I went through circle, I might have been feeling like crap while I'm telling the story, but at the end of the night, I felt, you know, lighter. I felt better, you know, so it was empowerment.
All right. And in the spirit of restorative justice, we always talk about like when we go around and do the check-ins, we're like, all right, how do you feel? And then normally people are like, oh, good. And we're like, good, it's not an emotion. So tell me how you feel. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you frustrated? Are you angry? Are you depressed? And so I guess the last question is, how do you feel being able to rewrite your story? I'll let you start.
Well, I mean, obviously my story's ongoing, but I took control of the narrative a while ago now, and I feel so disconnected from the broken man I was on the day that I was arrested that I almost can't remember feeling that way anymore. And so how do I feel? I feel empowered. I feel like if there's something in this world that I want, if there's something that I want to do, something I want to achieve, I can do that. And I don't think there's anything that could stop me if I really put my mind to something, because that's what this program has given me. That's what you all have given me. This has been the greatest gift of my life, and I just hope that I can share it with as many possible people as I can reach. That's my goal in life, is to make sure that as many possible people as I can reach know that this is a possible path for their lives, and that we will be there for them if they need to be lifted up.
Yeah, Nate stole my word, but I'm gonna use it anyway, empowered. You know, because it's just so empowering to take back control of your life. For a long time, I had no control of my life. I had no control of my emotions, I had no control, I was just a maniac. And to finally have that opportunity to take control back, you feel empowered, like you don't wanna let go of it. And when you become a part of this community that loves you and cares about you so much, and that you're accountable, that you know you don't want to let that go, because it's almost like a control thing. Like you don't want to let this power go because it feels so good. You know, good things start to happen. I'm a big believer in AA and NA, and I feel it changed my life also along with this community. And you know, good things start to come and good things start to happen as you start to work it. And that's what I believe with this community, is just that it's so empowering. So.
To be able to write my story is, you know, I think it gives me a whole lot of power, because I've been reading the story of my life that other people wrote, trauma wrote, and I didn't like it, didn't like not one chapter of it, you know, I still had, you know, so to be able to go back and rewrite it, you know, and have a second opportunity, and I'm so grateful for, you know, and, you know, my story, I want my story to have an impact on others in a way that, you know, positively, you know, I want them to read the book and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, he had a rough life in the beginning, but he sure turned it around and he became something, you know. And it's like, you know, I want to, you know, have him, you know, looking up into heaven to my mom and be able to say, hey, listen, yeah, she reads the book. That's not the way it started out, but I like the way it finished.
I think I'm gonna have to rewrite your question for myself. Not because it's a bad question, because it's a great question, but mostly because I'm still learning to rewrite my own story. I haven't done that fully yet, you know, I'm still learning the grounds and healing and doing all the process. So I don't know, I feel very proud of myself, just even being able to have the ability to do that for myself, you know, like I'm not doing it for nobody else but me, you know. It's probably one of the first things that I'm able to do for myself in a very long time, to help me heal from everything that I've been through. Yeah, so I feel really, really proud of myself. Even just sitting here, like I'm super proud of myself. I was super excited to come here, so it's you know, it's a journey, but I'm gonna get there eventually. And something that it kept going through my head while you were while everybody was talking was something that I always tell myself, like, you survived too many storms to be bothered by raindrops. Yes. So I always say that to myself, you know, like, it's all right, like, it's just raindrops, they don't hurt, you know, you'll be okay. So I'm just really proud of my own journey. So.
I'm so proud of all y'all, especially Rose, because she used to be so shy to talk, and now she's just up there killing it, so confident. So confident, I love it. But do we have any questions from the crowd?
If nobody else wants to.
Abby, I'm gonna do that.
Okay, hi, I'm Abby, by the way. My question is about mental health and how TUPIT and restorative justice has changed your mental health, how you felt like your past kind of was intertwined with like anything that was going on in your life and mental illness.
I feel like for me, mental health has always been a big part of my life. So coming here was just the process of just learning how to heal from it, you know. having great mentors, especially like Kentel and Bobby and David, and Shatira, you know, she's a fellow student, but she's also kind of like my mentor, you know, because it's just having the ability to really acknowledge what they're doing to better themselves mentally, and regardless of all the stress, it's kind of like, all right, I can see you, you know, like I see what you're doing, let me try, let me, you know, it creates a journey of like, yeah, I'm in class, but it's also a healing class. Like, you know, you're doing so many opportunities within the class itself. So it's just great, you know, the journey itself. So.
You know, I've dealt with mental health issues all my life, and you know, just to put it in simple terms, this program is my therapy. Because every time I come to class, I heal. I'm able to bring out things and talk, you know, and share things, you know. So I deal with post-traumatic stress, I deal with high level anxiety, I deal with depression. But it seems when I'm in class, when I'm with my fellow students, and you know, or I'm in the office with, you know, David and Hillary, I don't feel those things. And sometimes when I step out and I leave and I go home, those things start to creep back in. So that tells me that this program is my therapy. You know, these people are my, you know, my therapy, my classmates, and you know, everybody's involved in the MyTERN program. So, you know, you know, I need a lot of healing, and I'm getting it here, you know, where when I wasn't getting it anywhere else. So this is it. This is what the doctor wanted. You know, I'm happy for, you know, to do it. You know.
Yeah, that was a great question, Abby. You know, I struggle with mental health issues along with addiction issues, so you know they go hand in hand. And I think being part of this community is, you know, is such a strong, you know, community where it's so uplifting. And you know, one thing I've never been able to do in this journey of life is to be, you know, easy on myself. I'm very hard on myself, and being part of this community it allows you to be like easy on yourself and not to be so hard on yourself. If you make a mistake, you know, we all fall, one falls, we all rise, we all rise. So, you know, being able to, you know, especially the restorative justice circles was, you know, just kind of just being so comfortable. Like, you know, there's a saying that I love to say, they say in AA, it's being uncomfortable. You know, you have to get comfortable to be, you have to be uncomfortable to get comfortable. And I think that's the same as in this community. I had to get uncomfortable to be comfortable. Coming in, not knowing everyone, you know, knowing people's likes and dislikes, and, you know, opening up to myself for them to get to know who I, you know, really am, who Todd really is. And, you know, this community has just been nothing but, you know, a success for me. It's been like therapy. Every time we go to class on a Monday, it's like, hey, how was your weekend? What'd you do? It's a grounding before class. You know, people know my family, you know, better than I do because I talk about them, you know, or know my weekend better than I do. You know, it's just such an uplifting community that it's hard not to grow. So.
For maybe 17 of the 20 years that I was incarcerated, I went to mental health once a month. Mental health in prison is, as you expect, less than perfect. You spend maybe 45 minutes in a room with a person who you really can't tell anything to if it breaks any of the rules of the institution, because then you have to worry about him reporting back on you. So it makes therapy a long process. Through those first 15 or so years that I was doing mental health in prison, I healed maybe just enough to open myself up to the possibility of taking part in this program. And it turned out to be enough, because this program gave me more healing than in the first year than all of those years of therapy in prison combined. The things that we read, the stories we heard, the things we were asked to find ways to relate to our own lives. You see yourself out in these books and these articles and these essays, and you realize that you're not alone, that other people have been through these things and they made it through. And it gives you permission to also make it through and to also be okay. And man, like every paper that I wrote was just me dumping the garbage in my head out onto a piece of paper and handing it to a professor and saying, you deal with this. And it worked. Like the healing was immense. It was incredible. And getting to hear the stories of my fellow students and realizing that as different as we are, we all came in with trauma. Our trauma might be different, but it's affecting our lives the same way. We've made some of the same choices, we've done some of the same things, but we're here together, and we've got each other, we're okay. This is by far the most healing experience I could have ever hoped for in my life. And I am continuing to be healed by it every single day that I take part, which is why they'll never get rid of me. For the rest of my life, I will find a way to be inside one of these classrooms, either as a mentor or as a student aide or whatever. Whatever I have to do to continue to experience this love and this healing, I will be doing.
Before we close out, do we have one final question for our panelists? Suraj. Please introduce yourself, my brother, before you ask your question.
Name and feeling.
My name is Suraj. Nice to meet everybody here.
No DPI?
No, yeah. So I'm an alum of EPI, the Emerson Prison Initiative, with Kevin and some other people here, I guess. But I understand the good work that the good people at TUPIT are doing. But I have a question. So everybody's story was impactful, and there's a quote from the film Spider-Man, right? It says, with great power comes great responsibility. Everybody said that the program has changed their lives in profound ways. So if at all, how do you feel responsible with that power and that newfound sense of purpose that you guys have moving forward? How do you plan to enact that?
I will just quickly say, because I've already spoken this a little bit, my boss is Loretta Leverett. Oh, look at her face, she's so mad. I love it, thank you so much for that. Please tell me somebody got a picture. So, my boss, Loretta Leverett, she is the director of Step Roxbury Recovery Support Center in Roxbury. I am her assistant director. She gave me a shot when I came out of prison, and she's one of my favorite human beings on the face of the earth. But that's what we do. What we do is we, as a recovery support center, take our stories of addiction, of trauma, of all those things, and we allow people who are coming into our center to know that we've been through it and we've gotten through the other side. You can too, this is how. These are some of the possible ways how, so, follow us, we'll get you where you need to go. That's what we do. I am only doing this work because this program has given that to me, and I feel a responsibility to put that back out into the world in whatever way I can. This is the way I'm choosing to do it. I'm proud of it, and so that's my answer.
Real quick, when I came here last year to this event, that I was living in a group home. I had been out a few months, and I had no direction. I didn't know where I was going, and in the last few months, I've come into school, and I feel every time I leave school, or I feel that I'm not at school, I feel that I represent Tufts University. I think we had this conversation on the ride to Acton Boxford High School the other day, and I feel an obligation to act a certain way and to be a certain person. This program has allowed me, Teresa, in the last few weeks to have a full-time job as an engagement specialist, working with Jody over at North Suffolk Community Services. And, I represent the community, I represent Tufts, I represent, TUPIT and MyTERN, and I represent the people in it. But not only that, I represent myself. I'm a gentleman today, I'm a fine man, I'm someone who puts a responsibility.
That's right, Tommy. That's right, Tommy.
Yeah, you are.
I guess I'll go a little basic, it's like, I don't like feeling the way I feel sometimes. It's like, I'm not a greedy person, so it's like if I find a treasure, I'm not just gonna keep it for myself. And, it's like, I found healing, I found therapy, I found a community, and so why would I not wanna give that away? Because the more people we get in the community, the bigger things, the more things we can get done. So it's like, I want to give it away. I'm in, I have an addiction problem, and I've been sober for quite some time, and one of the things in AA is, in order to keep it, you got to give it away. So there is a responsibility to to, you know, help out the band behind me, you know, it's like somebody that's feeling the same thing I'm feeling, or has gone through the things that people in prison, you know, there is a responsibility, so it's not just about me, or, you know, about us. You know, what's the sense, you know, it's like keeping a little pearl, finding a pearl and hiding it. No one knows about it. You know, you wanna show everybody, you wanna, you know, get them, maybe they can go find a pearl, you know? And if you have a direction that you can show them how to get that pearl, why wouldn't you? You know, and that's what, you know, I feel a responsibility to do that.
Thank you, that's a great question. I feel like for me, like, I feel like I have such a big responsibility, especially after this program. Especially seeing like all these great people within the program itself, like Kentel had a TED Talk, you know, David's a director, like it's, and then Hillary, oh my God, Hillary, like she's just amazing, you know, like it's just being able to sit in a classroom with them and then also learning from them as a mentor and as a fellow, like it just has given me such a great idea of like, I need to do something, like eventually I do want to get into a psychology major or a degree in psychology to become a social worker, to work with youth. Like I feel like I have a responsibility to work with youth because that's where all the trauma starts, you know, like I want to be able to heal people before they even hurt people, you know, so having the opportunity is just a great responsibility that came about from this program, you know, and especially being that little girl of like seeing the world through a broken glass, you know, it's finally healed, it's not broken anymore, you know, so it's kind of like I want to be able to have the opportunity to help youth to not see the world through such a negative perspective, you know, so I feel like that's my responsibility to just help youth move forward with their life and be as successful as they can.
Let me tell you something. He know I love Marvel. He know I love Marvel. But in the Infinity War, Thanos. Hear me out. I'm about to cook. Hold up. I'm about to cook. All right, hold up. Hear me out. In the Infinity War, Luke is feeling me. He knows. So in the Infinity War, you have Thanos, who is this whatever highly intellectual being, and he's trying to get all of these Infinity Stones to put inside this gauntlet so he can have this gauntlet, and the gauntlet comes with so much power. And when I was watching that movie, it was stupid I'm like, this dude, Thanos is an idiot, first of all. You have all of this power, and the only thing you can think about, and he's like, oh, the resources are gonna go. So I have to kill half the population. I'm like, bro, you have all of this power, and the only thing you can think about is wiping out half the population. He wasn't thinking about creating another planet. He wasn't thinking about, I'm like, that's the dumbest misuse of power that I've ever seen in my life. So it's like, I love this story, but I was like, this dude's an idiot. It was a misuse of power. So now I'm thinking like, every time I walk out of one of these classrooms, I'm feeling like I'm walking away with an Infinity Stone. And I feel more powerful. And in every class, I'm always thinking about, all right, you're gonna misuse this power, or you're gonna be Tony Stark's and use this power in the correct manner. Come on, man.